Hello all, how you doing today? Thought I would do a video today, mainly addressing some things I saw in the Alpha 10.6 closed alpha over the weekend, both by Excalibur's Q&A Twitch stream and Spange's chillin' and building video. Um, to start with, on some new features coming to the game. One thing that they are bringing in that sounds pretty cool is the ability to dock a HV to an SV. So you could mount like a tank or a miner or something to the bottom of the SV, have the SV fly it somewhere, even out into space. In conjunction with that, HVs can move in space very slowly, but can park and position and things like that. So that's very cool. Could open up a new range of ships and HVs and things that you could build for the game to have a purpose and to do something in the game. Another new option or a new thing is they have a new hangar door, which is it looks better than the existing doors. Has kind of an animation round thing in the middle. A concerning aspect, though, when I seen it was this was also brought up too by Spans, I believe, is the new model for the hangar doors. It kind of looks like they kind of come down like this, and then they jog out this direction, and then down, which essentially makes it look like the same size hangar door would have a fair amount of less space for things to actually enter through the hangar door, and it's a little concerning to me. I build all these ships, and I try to use these standardized or standard size hangar doors, like a 5x9 on this one, and I know what will fit in there. Like I know the Demos will fit inside this ship, but I know the bigger tanks like the Basilisk and the Gigantes will not fit in this ship. Same thing with the SVs. So I mean I kind of got this dialed in to knowing what will work with what, and I use that size door as a minimum to enter the hangar, and I use the 13 by 7 ones on larger ships or bases. So if they lose capacity on what you can fit in them, that could be problematic. I just wanted to throw that out there. Another new feature that's pretty cool is SVs have like a HUD. So when you're flying in there, you almost get like you're flying a jet air, like a fighter jet, and you got this heads-up display and your height, and it's very cool. It's a nice little perk animation. Look pretty cool. Um, no gripes on that whatsoever. Um, Now, the area that I have a lot of concern about, though, is the reintroduction of CPU. Now, I believe it was back in Alpha 9, they brought in a mechanic called CPU, and at the time it was set to 7500 CPU as a max limit. Each part, well, a bunch of different parts use X amount of CPU. For instance, thrusters, RCS, fuel tanks, weapons, things like that. So you could have like a maximum amount of those types of things on any particular creation. Um, and that's when I built the Merc AME and the MX9 and the Ambry CT and a whole mess of 7500 CPU creations, just to see what I could do and kind of learn the ropes and the new storage and everything like that. Um, I wasn't thrilled about it. I mean, honestly, I really wasn't thrilled about the 7500 CPU. It it was fun for a little bit, but it got old fast. I kept on having to make compromises on my builds, making lesser versions than what I would like it to be. Um, the case in point, on the MX-9, I also put out MX-9R version that had a little bit more thrust, and a little bit more storage, and a little bit more guns, things like that. This Merc AME, or Auto Miner Extractor, is really, for the function that it was meant to do, it doesn't do it very well, to be honest. The point in case on this was you pull up to an auto miner here on this strange looking front end of the ship, and you could walk out of the cockpit, scoop the loot, walk back and fly away. Back in my early days of playing Empyrion, I put a lot of auto miners around and would have to routinely go collect the loot from them, and a ship like this I felt could be fairly practical, and it's got some weapons on it, so in case you run into some drones or even want to engage a small POI in the process, you got some rocket launchers to shoot out the turrets on the POI. So I found it kind of, useful. It's got the back room and all that stuff like it before. The reason why I'm bringing up all this is even this ship, with the 7500 CPU limit, really couldn't perform the function that I wanted it to, and that is to be able to pick up loot from auto miners. I didn't have enough thrust power. It doesn't have enough storage to do that. I can't make it have enough because of the CPU limitations. So I kept on running into that same problem over and over again. I managed to make several different creations that work with it, and it's not like they're all bad or severely limited, but they certainly weren't as good as they could have been. And this is another one where this is designed to be a storage ship, and it's 13K storage and so on. It's 7500 CPU compliant. This is the nicer version, which has 39K storage, is not 7500 CPU compliant, and it's the one I certainly like better than the other one. I wouldn't spawn that in game. I would spawn this one in game. So that's just kind of my take on the 7500 CPU. With what I've seen in the closed alpha of 10.6, it is far, far more limiting than what even this was, to the point of you can't really build anything, any size at all. In fact, I don't even think the Merc MX-1 would comply to the new standards. This is about 1/2 size class, 0.48 size class ship. Doesn't have anything wonderful on it. Doesn't have a huge amount of storage. I think it's 4K storage and 1K ammo storage. Doesn't even come with a constructor. But this is too much from what I've seen. This is too much of a ship for what they were proposing with the CPU. Now, it's not tweaked yet. I'm sure all the numbers will change a lot. They had some bugs on numbers. Some parts were using excessive amounts of CPU and kind of breaking it. So I believe they're probably trying to tweak that out. Now, also, what was mentioned in the video is there might be 4 tiers to CPU, and we were looking at the lowest tier, or tier 1, I believe, which limited it to 6,000 CPU. But the parts all take different CPU values than what I was used to, so I can't exactly say how that all works out. But I seen Spans build a SV to be CPU compliant, and he did manage to do it. Honestly, it was a scout ship. Literally, you couldn't really do anything more than that. It didn't have an interior. It didn't have good weapons. It didn't have good thrust. It didn't really have anything. But it maxed out what it could do. And I find that extremely limiting. To the point where it's like, why even bother? So I am concerned about that, and I hope they tweak it out. I'm curious on how the tier systems work. But I gotta say, my biggest concern is it sounds like it would break literally, pretty much everything I broke. Everything I made, and just about everything any other author has made. unless it's really small. Where not only would it break it, you couldn't fix it. You could never make a ship this big in the game and have it work. It just won't work, or any of these ships. And it's not like I was really trying to push the size class hard on what I've got out here. In fact, I was very conservative with size class on most of these. Um, but there's just no way. And the reason they're putting in the or want to put in the CPU is number one concern was game performance. And I guess I can see it a little bit. And right now, as you see me strolling around, I do have the FPS meter up in the upper right of the screen. You're seeing I'm getting about 40 frames a second, 44 here. If I stir out into not looking at anything at all, I get a few frames a second better. Now, technical spec wise, I'm running this at 3440 by 1440 resolution. I have every single graphic setting maxed out. And I'm running this on a i7 CPU, a 6-core i7 from a couple years back, one of the cheaper models of them. And I have a pretty good video card, though. I have a NVIDIA 2080, not the TI version, and 16 gigs of RAM. So yeah, my FPS running at this resolution with all settings up is 30 to 50, I would say, is an average. 50 is a little hard to hit though, and unless I stare at the sky, then I can get 60. But I guess I haven't really found it to be that bad. Now I'm not on the servers and things like that, but servers have size class rules already, and we've got size class on everything, and blocks with like curve blocks and pipe blocks and things that have more polygons in them shoot up the size class of the creation quicker. So I guess I don't really see the point necessarily of these CPU restrictions. I mean, shouldn't that be up to the individual person playing the game and the server admins on what is good for them, and not have it like just forced upon everyone? Because honestly, I don't have an issue with FPS really when I'm doing this stuff, and I wouldn't want to be restricted because of it. Now, it sounds like that they were willing to not make it forced on single player, have an option to have it on or off, but it sounded like they wanted to force it onto servers. And then again, I don't fully understand it because I don't know what the different tiers would bring into the mix. All I got to say is after seeing this information, it literally scared the crap out of me. It made me feel that pretty much everything I've done for this, all these creations and whatnot, are dead. Can't ever make them work again. Can't ever build anything like them again. And I don't see the point on why would you do that to, arguably the best building game out there. So I mean, there's some other great games out there for building too, Space Engineers, and there's a lot I've never even seen or played. But I'm just saying, what attracted me to this game in the first place was the fact that you could build really cool stuff, and that's neat. And I think most of the people that have stuck around and keep playing the game and stuff enjoy that. If you take that away, I'm not sure what I wouldn't be here anymore. I mean, and I don't think a lot of other authors and people would be here anymore either, because if all you could do is this, that ain't much. I mean, because you can do all this now, and it'd be very hurtful. Um, so all I ask, if the developers happen to see this video, is please make it optional. I understand your thinking behind it, and I understand that smaller stuff is going to be less taxing on the game engine and whatnot, but you can't just at this stage just destroy everything on the workshop, replace everything with newer stuff like this that has limited function and doesn't work very good and it's not very cool, because you will literally destroy the game. And I could see a mass exodus of everyone, pretty much. I'm sure a few people would like it, but having an option, having an option, both single and multiplayer, completely optional. You can turn it on if you want to use that rule set. That's great. If you don't, then don't turn it on. That's a solution that'll fix it all right there. Because if you don't have that solution in there, it's not going to be pretty. It really isn't going to be pretty at all. So I'm just saying that. So that's about it on the Alpha 10.6 stuff, and I just wanted to quickly show you some updates to this Tachi project. On the launch or the MCRN Corvette class SDP, which is surface docking platform. I finished this up. I got this all kind of tweaked out. I followed everyone's comments. I made this a landing base only. It doesn't really do anything else besides land the ship, but it's an awful lot less money than it was before. Now, one design choice I made, and I don't know if it was the right one, I switched the material to carbon substrate for it, so it didn't require much resources, and it also reduced the build time to 1 hour even on it. Now, it's pretty fragile, and it doesn't have any defense. It does, however, have solar now, so I added these 6 solar panels, and little switch over here for extending these ramps out that would meet up with the ship's ramps. And I made a couple other tweaks too, in which you can kind of walk down this whole area here. When the thrusters are blaring, it actually kind of goes down through this hole in the floor, kind of like a rocket launch pad. Just little things like that. I'm trying to make this pretty immersive, and to me it feels pretty immersive. I mean, when you pull up to it and you get on, or you're coming in and you're going to walk up to the ship, it's there. It's in your face. It's kind of like, to me, it feels pretty immersive, and I like that. Now, something else, I rebuilt this area over here, changed how the glass is. Another feature too, let me just take off real quick, is you can see the LCD projections up there, which I kind of set up. There's 4 of them, and kind of almost doing like a 3D guide pattern. So when you're landing this ship, it kind of you kind of pull up there, and there you go, and you're landed. And I found it, once you land the ship a couple times, it's really pretty easy to land. And with little tweaks and things I've made, or maybe there's an update to the game, I've noticed before when I was landing that the thrusters didn't seem to want to shut off, but now they are. And I'm not exactly sure why, because I really didn't change anything too severely with that, but they seem to be working as intended now, so that's definitely a bonus. Inside the ship, I started on the engineering deck, and that's about it right now. I know I got a lot more to do, so this is what I've managed to achieve so far, and basically I wanted to get all the major components in, generators, shield, warp. I'm trying to put everything on display, fuel tanks, even RCS over here. Again, try to get it more immersive, like this is a real working engineering deck, and all these parts and everything here is for a reason and a function. And this also travels down to the landing cockpit, which will be down there. Now that'll be different from the actual third-person cockpit that the ship will have for probably normal use. But yeah, who knows? You might want to fly the ship a lot with this port, as you get a reasonably acceptable view flying around in first person with it. This little back door off the one side here is going to go to a fuel and air storage room, basically your supplies. So that'll all be kind of finished off and things too. And I do got to get jamming on this. I did want to release this this upcoming Sunday, and I got quite a lot more to do. I guess I lost some time because I got kind of entrenched in the whole Alpha 10.6 close alpha thing, and I kind of probably spent way more time looking at that stuff than I probably should have. But also, after this video, my next thing is I've got the Creel Wraith ready. I've got the screenshots made for it. I got to upload the blueprint and put the screenshots there and put the text on the post, and that will be released, as well as the Hellfire color set for it for the Creel. So that is coming. So I guess last but not least, just one other observation on blocks, and this has to do with a little bit of game optimization as well. As if you see these blocks I placed out here, there's a couple reasons I placed these blocks, and there's just problems I found in some blocks. This block, for instance, kind of useful for number of different situations, but I've noticed this really nasty UV here across the side, and how the textures all get squashed over here. Like, you can see what's going on here. Just wanted just show that to everybody. Something that I believe needs to be fixed at some point. It's not like a major concern, but it does force people to only texture the side of a block like that with something that you can't tell, and which I've been doing. Another block that I have big concerns on, and I love this block, and that's why I'm bringing it to the point. I find this block very useful for different situations. Problem I've got with this block is it's somehow way too high a polygon for what it is. And I put like kind of a counterpart block right next to it here. In fact, let me get another one of those out, and I'll place one on top here. And for all practical measures, because this is round on all four sides, and given how your different polygon lines would work on these edges, this block here should be less polygons than this block, because it squares off to this whole back area. So it would have like basically half of this block, and the other half is a total of 6 faces around this side here. The thing is this block doesn't. In fact, I believe this block has over double the amount of polygons that this block has in it. It also does not line up to the other block on the sides here. It's a little hard to tell right now, but the dimensions of the circle are different. I'm not sure why. You could have started with this block, pretty much chopped it in half, extended the vertexes out here, added a new face on this side, added a face that went across here, and called it good. And it should have been lower polygon than what the original one is. And unfortunately, this wasn't built that way. It doesn't seem like it was built by the same person. And this one is extremely taxing on size class and probably game performance. Something else I wanted to bring up too is on the parts over here. A lot of these newer models that have been brought in the game are, definite improvement visually over the older stuff. But I wanted to stress the point on watching your your budget for polygon counts on these. I'm looking at like these thrusters, and although I think they look really good, um, I'm looking at all these little fine details and little stuff like this that are just chewing up polygons. Um, and the pipes back here and things where you could simplify this, have most of these parts use an awful lot less polygons and therefore be less demanding on the game engine, and maybe you won't have as many performance problems. So it's something I just wanted to bring up, to maybe keep an eye on the models that are being built, and maybe try to come up with a budget on what you can get away with, what's a fair number of polygons when you're building these things, and get that maybe toned down a little bit from where it is to try to increase the game performance. Um, Things like that. It's definitely, in my opinion, better than severely limiting on what the game actually can do. Um, okay. Well, anyway, y'all have a good day. Hope you enjoyed this video, and see you later.